My name is Councillor Mike Cohen, and it's my privilege to welcome you after the wonderful Canadian citizenship ceremony to our induction. This year we are honoring human rights activists for oppressed Jews in foreign lands. I'm pleased to have co-chaired this initiative with Councillor Glenn J. Nashin. For 11 years I worked for the Canadian Jewish Congress, and during that time we worked with some very special people on some very special issues. Now in the year 2010, a lot of people may not remember or may not be aware that there was a movement to free Jews from the former Soviet Union, from Ethiopia, and from Syria. We've got a wonderful video on our website. There's a lot of information that you will receive tonight, and we will be unveiling our plaque. Councillor Nashin worked with me at the Canadian Jewish Congress as a co-chair of the Jews and Arab Lands Committee with Rabbi Martin Penn, a true hero who unfortunately cannot be with us here tonight. I would now like to invite Mayor Anthony Housefather to proceed with the ceremony.
I'm so delighted that the city of Côte Saint-Luc years ago inaugurated a human rights walkway where we can honor men and women who contributed to human rights internationally. Today, it's a fantastic honor for us to celebrate those people who helped free the Soviet Jews, the Syrian Jews, and the Ethiopian Jews. And some of the people we have with us today, although I'm sure I'm missing names, are Stan Citronbaum, who's going to speak later today, who was deeply involved in helping the Ethiopian Jews emigrate, Mark Zarecki, who worked with Stan for the Ethiopian Jews, Edith Copper, who worked also on the Ethiopian Jews, Carolyn Steinman, who's here from the group of 35, Seema Glitzer, who's here from the group of 35, and Jerry Weinstein, the president of B'nai B'rith, who I know has been deeply involved in these causes for many, many years. As Mike mentioned, one of the things that people my age even have forgotten is that not that many years ago, many Canadians helped create a grassroots movement to help Jews escape from the Soviet Union. The activists were inspired by the Jewish concept to heal the world, Tikkun olam, and by a desire to not allow governments to persecute their Jewish citizens. In the Soviet Union, many Jews applied for exit visas to leave the country, especially after 1967. Many were refused permission to emigrate and came to be called refuseniks because of this refusal from Soviet authorities. Jews in Canada and elsewhere began to protest at the Soviet consulates and embassies. Many, like our Member of Parliament Erwin Kotler, traveled to the Soviet Union to meet the refuseniks or offer legal counsel. In 1990, the Gorbachev-era reforms took hold, and more than 213,000 Jews emigrated. This was the start of the largest Jewish exodus in modern times. More than 1 million Soviet Jews moved to Israel, the United States, Canada, Australia, and other countries. And even today, when we watched our citizenship ceremony, we saw Jews who left the former Soviet Union who became Canadian citizens here today. And that was inspirational. And because of those activists that did what they did with the group of 35. So thank you all so much, those of you who were involved. Then there were other activists like Judy Feld-Carr, who helped draw the attention of Canadians and people across the world to the plight of the Jewish community in Syria, who were also prevented from leaving the country. And thanks to the efforts, largely of Canadians, by 1995, almost all the Syrian Jews who wanted to leave the country had done so. And finally, we had the story of the Falashas in Ethiopia. For so many years, Jews across the world and people across the world were not even aware of their existence in the Gondar province of Ethiopia. For many years, there were rabbis even who refused to acknowledge their existence as Jews. And yet, due to threats from the military government, and famine. Finally, the world's attention went to Ethiopia, and many Jewish activists worked on their behalf, including Mr. Sittenbaum, who's going to talk to you today. And finally, the state of Israel airlifted many tens of thousands, probably 20 to 30,000 Ethiopian Jews from Ethiopia to safety in Israel. And some also settled in Canada, including here in Côte Saint-Luc. Côte Saint-Luc has put a video about these issues on our website at www.cotesaintluc.org. I'd encourage everyone who's interested in learning about how the Russian Jews, Syrian Jews, and Ethiopian Jews were saved to visit our website. Et je vous encourage tous et toutes de célébrer ces hommes et ces femmes qui ont aidé à libérer les Juifs de l'étranger. You've all taught us a lesson. Never again will we sit back in silence. So thank you all so much. And now it gives me great pleasure to call upon Senator Leo Housakos.
On behalf of the Prime Minister of Canada, I'm here to share my views on what we consider to be an outstanding initiative here today, and I want to compliment Mayor Housefather and the City of Côte Saint-Luc for recognition of such an important cause. On Canada Day, we reflect on the achievements of our country, how we have always been a progressive nation that sought to promote and, when necessary, defend human rights around the globe. From John Humphrey, already recognized here for his drafting of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, these values are reflected in the free country we enjoy today. The Jews who came to Canada and their offspring prospered under a Canada that recognized their personal and collective freedoms. But so many Jews around the world lived under oppressive regimes that only denied them their basic human rights, but would not let them escape to freer lands. These nations, like the former Soviet Union, Syria, and other oppressive regimes, held back their Jewish, publicly abused them as a distraction for their broader populations. But there was hope for these suffering Jews around the globe. Jews and non-Jews of conscience bound together, organized and fought publicly for the rights and release of their overseas brothers and sisters. There is probably not a Jew among those gathered here today who does not have a relative or a family friend who escaped from an oppressive regime. As a result, we all understand the importance of never backing down when faced with an international menace, such as the threat that Iran poses to world peace today. Le gouvernement du Canada partage pleinement les valeurs de la communauté juive, celle de la tolérance, l'ouverture envers toute personne, pays aux cultures qui supportent la paix entre le peuple du monde et la défense de ceux et celles qui souffrent sous des régimes corrompus et racistes. Le gouvernement du Canada salue tous ceux et celles qui ont battu pour les Juifs opprimés en terre étrangère et espérons que leur travail facilitera la liberté pour tout qui ne profite pas actuellement.
Speaking on behalf of Rowan Cawthorn, I just want to say personally, I've had the great privilege to work with great defenders and fighters for human rights. Prime Minister Pierre-Éliott Trudeau, the late Senator Sheila Feinstein, and of course Rowan Cawthorn. But some of the people who are being honored today really are, to me, my personal true heroes, who I've admired for many years, because it shows what the grassroots can do. It shows what everybody here can do to defend human rights, whether it's in Canada or whether worldwide.
How fitting it is that on this Canada Day, on this Canada Day citizenship ceremony, we honor those men and women who fought for the human rights of oppressed Jews in foreign lands. Dear friends, citizenship in a democratic society is an honor and an obligation, an inalienable right, and the contemporary form of duty. In taking an oath of citizenship, we pledge allegiance not only to a country, but to the values that country embodies.
And now, on behalf of all of the honorees today, and it's an incredible group of people, I am pleased to call upon Mr. Stanley Sittenbaum to say a few words.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. A great number of people were involved in the Ethiopian Jewry movement. I'd like to pay tribute to a number of them who exerted extraordinary efforts on their behalf. My colleagues Edith Cooper, Mark and Gladys Zarecki, my wife Sandra, the late Rabbi Israel Hausman, the late Zalman Stern, Bruce Gottlieb, Barry Smith, Malka Abraham, Baruch Tegenye, Marty Penn, Alan Rose, and presidents of Canadian Jewish Congress, Irwin Kotler, Milton Harris, Dorothy Reitman. Thanks to all of these and many more. In the month of October 1988, I traveled to Ethiopia together with Barry Smith and my wife. We observed many things in our short visit there. We noticed an inordinate number of cripples without wheelchairs, without even any kind of aids for them. We learned that, if you have a cut or a bruise and if you don't treat it properly, it gets infected. The infection, if not treated, spreads. And you could lose a limb as a result of not having just a simple antibiotic. We noticed swarms of flies around the eyes of children, a sure sign of infection in the eyes of the children. At the time I contracted pink eye. My pink eye disappeared after several days of using an antibiotic ointment. But without treatment, it could lead to serious eye disease, even blindness. We noticed many children walking long distances and barefoot to school. But only half of them were going. Half the children would go to school in the morning. The other half would go in the afternoon because of the lack of facilities. I'm pleased to say that for the over 100,000 Ethiopian Jews who were successfully brought to Israel, for the approximately 100 Ethiopian Jews that were successfully brought here to Canada, the health problems no longer exist. They have available the finest, up-to-date medical treatment in Israel as well as here. Opportunity for education is available both in Israel and here. It has been a great privilege for those of us involved in the movement to see some of this happen. We wish to express our gratitude and our thanks to the city of Côte Saint-Luc for recognizing our efforts. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup.
I stood there in front of the consulate, as Mr. Bergman mentioned, with so many of you as high school students saying, "Let my people go." In my university and adult years, working as a volunteer with Canadian Jewish Congress, trying to fight for the freedom of Jews in Syria, and later trying to fight for relief efforts for Jews in Cuba, like so many of you, and standing with so many of you. J'aimerais remercier tous nos invités d'honneur ici aujourd'hui. I'd like to thank all of our honored guests for being here and for helping us to launch this important inauguration on our Human Rights Walkway.